Hey everybody, I'm Jimmy Ether, and I am currently driving down to Savannah to this little tech, web, music kind of conference they have, I think once a year here and once a year in Boston, called Geekend. I've never been to it before, don't really know what to expect. They're talking about a bunch of marketing stuff, but how that relates to music industry and gaming and a lot of little things that myself and some of the folks I'm working with are tangentially interested in. But I'm documenting this. Because I'm documenting it, I figured this is a great time to talk about my views on documentation, why it's important, and why I've had conversations recently with friends where they're like, hey, who cares about, everybody can throw up a video and nobody cares about it. But when I mean documentation, I'm not just talking video, I'm talking audio and photos and journaling and, writing articles, whatever. Just capturing your ideas at a point in time and capturing events at a point in time. But as I was saying, I'm talking to friends and just having conversations with them because I've spent a lot of time in the last year or two documenting recording sessions, having multiple cameras rolling all the time and stuff like that. And they haven't quite got how cool that is. They haven't quite, I haven't put the videos out yet. We haven't finished editing them and finished recording the sessions and stuff. But I think it's a big deal. I think it's not more important than the art in this case, like the art that's being recorded in the studio when we do these sessions. It's not as important as that, and it takes more time to do than that. So it's understandable why it would seem that was maybe a wasted effort. But at the same time, we're capturing these little moments, the bandits themselves wanting to remember in a few years. And who knows where the fan base goes with any project that we do, whether people will be interested or not in it. Come a few years down the road, having these sessions documented and having these kind of the beginnings of ideas, the sort of seeds of ideas, seeing how they develop musically, or in this case from a tech standpoint, like with some of the application stuff and APIs that I'm working on as a computer programmer as well. Kind of seeing where our mindset is on any of these things at any given time, seeing how a project develops, seeing when creativity happens. That's what you're capturing. And then you just have to go through these hours of boring video for the most part and find those little moments where those little gems of wow, that's when that happened. That's when we decided to do that chorus that way, and that's what makes that a great song. Or hey, that's when we got the idea to do this on this application or this book or whatever it is, it doesn't matter. So technology has gotten so cheap. Good technology. This is an HD cam I'm talking into now that's the size of a cigar, mounted on my windshield. I've got my iPhone here that I could have turned on as well and had multicam in my car. I'm not going to bother, but you could load the stuff up on your computer and put up a better than DVD quality video on YouTube or Vimeo or anything like that for almost no cost, once you've got the equipment. It's pretty amazing. And So anyway, yeah, I mean, I think documentation's extremely important. I mean, if you look back at all of these scenes that happen over the years, like Chapel Hill and Athens and all of that, just think if there had been documentation of some of these recording sessions and folks hanging out together and playing shows together and stuff. I mean, there isn't a lot on a lot of these indie kind of microcosms of like Chapel Hill or say Portland or San Diego, or things that happen, you know, like these little microcosms of the underground sort of indie scene, or that happen around labels, or the genesis of the labels themselves. I mean, you don't really see much footage on this kind of stuff. And it's certainly the kind of thing that I and my friends would eat up, you know, and we do eat up anything that there is about recording in the studio, or about like a band's process, or, you know, even for me, I mean, I like watching documentaries of making films more than I do watching the films themselves sometimes. Or the documentaries discussing, like, you know, the making of cartoons or whatever it is, whatever the creative process is. It's almost more interesting to me to hear about the process than it is to actually see the result. I mean, you enjoy the result, the result's always there, and that's sort of that's your finished product, that's your thing that you always go to and listen to or watch, but it's informed by what you know about the process too. I mean, anytime I watch the making of, like, there was a series on VH1 for a while called Classic Albums that I just loved, and every single one of those, I even watched the ones where I didn't really care for the album or the band, like Duran Duran and U2 and stuff like that. Don't like those bands, but the process is interesting to me. And I'm more interested in the records now that I've seen their process. You know, I can listen to that and go, oh yeah, I remember, you know, when they were talking to Daniel and Lavoie about doing this or doing that, or, you know, and it gives you ideas and kind of sparks creativity in yourself, and that's not there if you're not documenting it. And you don't have to necessarily be doing video like this, but I think photos, I think blogging is kind of like, there's still a lot of bloggers, but it's sort of fallen by the wayside in favor of like tweeting and these little Facebook status updates, which are great, but there's no depth to it, you know. I mean, there's no thought put into it, and it's not really about anything specific, you know. It's just kind of these general quips and jokes and stuff for the most part, which, you know, I love, but that's not documentation. So, I mean, if you're a band, for instance, and you're going into the recording studio, or you're playing a gig, or you're going on tour, or you're just getting together to have fun and mess around or whatever, or you know, have dinner or watch a movie or whatever, document it, you know, photos, little video clips, and kind of collect all that as much as you can, and you know, call it and figure out, well, after time has passed, you can look back on it and go, well, what is the story here? You know, I mean, what are people going to care about, possibly? Even if that's a small amount of people, even if it's a niche is fine. You know, it doesn't have to be appealing to the masses, because let's face it, most of what we do, most of what most of us do, at least, does not appeal to very many people at all. I mean, the music that I make in all of the different bands that I'm in, and the music that I record with different bands, for the most part, is not going to be appealing to the masses. You know, they're going to have a small following, better than local, I think. You know, but most of us are kind of stuck in that local sort of atmosphere, that little scene, and unable to break past that. And there are people outside your local scene that are into the kind of music that you're into, that would be interested in seeing what you did, interested in seeing how you made this record. And the thing is, eventually, it may be legendary. You know, I mean, think about somebody who just happened to have a video camera at the time that Minor Threat was playing shows, you know, or the Minutemen, or, you know, Black Flag, SST, that whole kind of area, or anything, you know, any little scene. Think how cool that would be to have now. And we don't, for the most part, have as much as we could now. Like, stuff that's happening now, there's no excuse, you know. There is no excuse not to have everything documented to hell and back now, because we can do it with, like I said, our iPhones or whatever, you know. I mean, photos, videos, talking to a mic, and just do it like a little one-off little note that you keep. Like, this is what I'm thinking. Whatever, it doesn't matter. Just collect your thoughts, collect the process, and you know, you don't have to do it with any kind of intention in mind other than, well, we're going to record this and see what happens. It may be junk, it may be boring. I mean, trust me, I've edited hours and hours of things like me overdubbing bass on a song. We'll probably use like 10 seconds of it, and I've recorded and edited multi-cameras, hours of footage like that, and we'll end up using, you know, a little snippet, but that's okay, because I've always got that documentation to go back to in full, and that one little snippet could mean a lot, you know. I mean, that one little snippet that you get of an otherwise kind of worthless video session, it is gold, you know. So document it, you know, and kind of lay it all out at some point towards the end of the process, and we'll look for patterns to emerge, and look for the story. Where's the story? What's interesting about what you do? And what's cool about that is, to me, is you get a third-person perspective, not a fully third-person perspective, but kind of a third-person perspective on your band, or your group, or your team, or whatever it is. You know, the camera is not, I mean, you're making the choices of the footage you use, and you're making the choices of how to cut it, and what's important and what's not, and where to place the cameras, and all that kind of stuff. But you're not seeing from that perspective once you roll cameras and you forget about them, for the most part, which when you get used to it after a while, and you do forget about them. And, you know, you've got these kind of eyeballs sitting and watching you, gathering these perspectives that nobody else would have had. You know, there is nobody else in the room at that point in time sitting at each of the positions of those cameras, typically. So the band itself, or, you know, the group itself, or you yourself, you get a new perspective on what you're doing, and you get a little more clarity, I think, on what you're doing, and can kind of buy into your own ethos and your own mystique. You know, you start learning what it is about yourself that is attractive and what's unattractive, and you play up the good things and play down the bad, and you know, you learn from that process. I think you learn from that process. It's kind of like, if you're a musician, let's say you're starting out as a musician, and you sit in your bedroom and you play guitar, or you play bass, or you play drums or keyboards, or whatever it is, you know, and you play to your home recording studio all the time. You think you're pretty good, you know, but that's nothing like someone who gets together with live musicians and plays songs, not jams, but songs on a regular basis. And those people are so much more in tune Like once you've played live, or and beyond that, once you've played multiple instruments and played with other people, you get a whole new perspective on being a musician and your playability, and then you start to, it's a completely different mindset. And I think, documentation sort of like that. I mean, once you're able to see what it is you're done, what you're doing, what you're about from a different perspective, that's pretty intense,